4.1a is going to have us identify the population in the sample in a sample survey. This is one of the fundamental learning objectives within this chapter. So defining the population. In a statistical study, it is the entire group of individuals about which we want the information. That is, it's what do we want to know about the individuals? What group are we interested in? Then we're going to go ahead and take a sample within that group. And the sample is the part of the population from which we actually collect the information. We're going to use this sample to draw some conclusions about the entire population. So this is a really nice visual. Once you define your population, who specifically are we targeting, we'll take a sample, collect the data, and make some inferences about what we find. This is really what the entire course is about. Because of that, it's very important we practice defining who is the population and what is the sample of a scenario. Here's our first one. The student government at a high school surveys 100 of the students at the school to get their opinions about the change to the bell system. If you think about this, who is the population that we actually are targeting within this particular example, and what is the sample? The sample, I think, tends to be one of the easier ones to conclude. The sample in this case is clearly going to be the 100 students at the school. So we would define the sample as the 100 students surveyed. What is the actual population? In this case, the population is going to be all the students at the school. Let's look at letter B. In this case, a quality control manager at a bottling company selects a sample of 10 cans from a production line every hour to see if the volume of the soda is within the acceptable limits. Again, I like starting with the sample. The sample right here is the 10 cans on the production line. So we can just define that accordingly and say it's the 10 cans that are inspected. Now, very specifically, what is the population in this case? Be careful, we are talking about all of these cans, but it's all the cans every hour. So we do want to be specific enough and say it's all the cans produced that hour. Now, when we talk about trying to come up with a sample, there's some key elements you really need to talk about. First of all, as we said earlier, the whole point of looking at a particular sample is that we want to draw conclusions about the whole population. We don't have time to talk about everyone in the population, so we pick a sample. But choosing that sample is not that easy. You want to do it well so that you have good data coming in. If it's designed poorly and you have poor data coming in, there's no point to do the study. So the first thing you do want to do is to define the population that you want to describe. Who are we interested in looking at? Once you have that defined, your next step is to say exactly what do we want to measure? What do we want to get from that population? Maybe we're analyzing the students at the high school and we want to estimate what their ACT scores will be in the spring. That's what we want to measure, is their ACT performance. So your step 3 then is going to be decide how to choose a sample from the population. And in this chapter, we're going to talk about different ways of choosing a sample based on what you want for your study.